We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
First here on Channel 4, take command of your own space shuttle in EQUINOX.
Miles per second. That's the speed of these films and tapes as they freefall weightless around the Earth. They contain some of the greatest images ever recorded in space. 5 a.m., Houston, Texas. 5 astronauts are in the final stages of training for the 57th mission of the Space Shuttle. This morning they'll board a simulator and pretend to land in Florida at night. Commander Frank Culbertson is followed by his second-in-command, pilot Bill Reedy. Both are former military test pilots. Both have been into space once before. Together, they'll be responsible for the safe flight and return of Space Shuttle Discovery.
I made a decision when I was 13 that this is what I wanted to do. I think I probably started thinking about it sooner than that because when I was home after my last flight, my mother had a weekly reader, which is a news magazine for kids that we get in grammar school, that she had saved since I was in the 6th grade, and I had underlined the word astronaut everywhere it appeared in the weekly reader. And that was in 1960, I guess.
Also being prepared for their flight are 2 satellites, the payload that Discovery will be trucking into orbit. The first is the Advanced Communications Technology satellite. The second is a retrievable satellite. It'll be released from the shuttle and allowed to drift away in space for 6 days. It carries an astronomical telescope and cameras that will film Discovery in space. Despite their hectic schedule, the astronauts must make time to keep fit. Illness on a 10-day space mission is unthinkable. Dr. Jim Newman, a physicist, applied to NASA 4 times before he finally managed to break through and join the ranks of the astronaut corps. His first mission will take him on a spacewalk.
We need to fly more people in space who also have an opportunity to do a spacewalk because the experience base in the office isn't as high as it needs to be for the space station. So we're going to do some just general training tasks. We're also going to, and perhaps more importantly, evaluate some of the hardware that they'll be using for the Hubble Space Telescope repair mission. We train in a large swimming pool. We get into a spacesuit and they take us underwater. It feels almost like weightlessness. The principal difference between training in the water and between going into space is the viscosity of the water slows you down, it damps out your motions.
It takes 15,000 people to prepare the shuttle and its astronauts for each mission. Dressed and adorned like gods of the 21st century, they'll spend many hours practicing for their spacewalk, submerged in these suits that weigh 200 pounds. Jim is completely self-sufficient. He has oxygen, water, and even food. Joining Jim on the spacewalk is Carl Waltz.
We do have a couple of the other guys in our crew.
We need to check the water.
Check the water.
He's a major in the Air Force, an Elvis impersonator, and he regards his spacewalk as practice for building a space station.
I see the space station as a stepping stone, just as Gemini was a stepping stone to the Apollo moon landings. We had to do Gemini missions to really work out the choreography for doing an Apollo mission and for getting people farther into space. And I think that if we plan to do any further exploration of our solar system and beyond, I think that the space station is one of those necessary steps.
To train for launch, the crew need to practice in a vertical shuttle simulator.
Does that bother you at all?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay.
Am I airtight?
You're airtight, sir.
Watertight?
And watertight. All right, sir. Head first do the first one, feet first do the second.
Their backpack, which comes complete with parachute, weighs almost 40 pounds. Bill's suit would inflate if the air pressure in the shuttle suddenly dropped. These safeguards were introduced after 7 astronauts lost their lives in the Challenger disaster.
All right, sir. We have come to the point where we all have to work together for just a few minutes. Okay. Coming down? Sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Sure does.
These training sessions are repeated again and again, but they can't reproduce the forces the astronauts will experience during their journey up to space.
And you can let your weight down now. Okay.
The ascent is a pretty incredible series of feelings, but the contrast between the 3G acceleration that you feel for the last minute or so during the ascent and 0G is even more startling, because you're pressed back in your seat, and for about the last 45 seconds or so, it really almost feels like there's a gorilla standing on your chest, and your breathing gets very labored.
Fifth and final member of the crew is Navy Commander Dan Bursch. He'll be in charge of the shuttle's cargo, and he'll double as flight engineer.
Carl, how you doing?
He's been training for 3 years and has yet to experience the night before launch.
As it gets closer and closer, you start convincing yourself that this is really going to happen. And the night before, I can't imagine what will be going. I mean, I just hope that I'm able to relax, and I think it'll probably come down to just, I'm ready for it to happen. We're ready, let's do it.
You know, every day I drive to work past a Saturn V rocket. It's laying on its side, and it's not a mock-up. It's the real thing. It's a real Saturn V with an Apollo capsule, and it was bought and paid for and ready to go to the moon. It boggles the mind to think of what kind of capability we could have if we had kept on making small incremental refinements to the Saturn V.
Look good on TV.
Instead of improving rockets like the Saturn V, which could be used only once, NASA went for a completely new concept, a reusable spaceship, and the shuttle was born. It has 3 parts: a delta-wing spaceplane called the orbiter. The external tank contains the liquid fuel for the orbiter's engines. Extra power comes from a pair of giant firecrackers, the solid rocket boosters. It looks like it was designed by a committee, but it's the most complex machine ever built. Kennedy Space Center, Florida. The shuttle inherited this colossal building from Saturn V. It's over 500 feet high and covers 8 acres. Once the shuttle has been put together on top of a mobile launch pad, it's transported out to the launch site 4 miles away. Traveling at the majestic speed of 1 mile an hour along a roadway of specially imported Alabama river gravels, Discovery is being carried on the same transporter on which Apollo 11 began its historic journey to the moon. The twin solid rocket boosters are bolted down onto the launch pad, and they support both the external tank and the orbiter. They're packed with solid explosives. They'll deliver 80% of the thrust needed at launch. Discovery is one of 4 orbiters. It's on its way to a record 17th flight. Its nose and its rear are dotted with small jet thrusters that it'll use when it needs to maneuver in space. Keeping the shuttle vertical, the transporter climbs the final ramp up the launch mound. The astronauts have come to Florida to inspect Discovery. They can rehearse their final walk along the gantry that leads to the White Room guarding the entrance hatch.
Alan McBride, Florida's Radio Network.
The crew gives the last of numerous press briefings, but salvation isn't far away. They'll spend their last week in quarantine. With the 2 satellites safely installed in the shuttle, the payload technicians pose for one last group photo. It's time to close the payload bay doors. The external tank is filled with 500,000 gallons of liquid fuel, supercooled oxygen and hydrogen. Together with the fuel in the solid rocket boosters, the shuttle now has a massive amount of energy stored inside it. The liquid oxygen is allowed to vent off through a valve at the top of the external tank. With their unfailing etiquette of commander first, then pilot, and then mission specialists, the astronauts board a bus for their ride to the launch site. A few minutes later, they make their last walk across the gantry leading to the White Room.
Martin, how you doing? I'm doing great. How about you? Want to trade places? Morning, sir.
The launch is controlled by a team located 4 miles away. The launch director will make all decisions until liftoff. At that moment, control will be handed over to Mission Control 1,000 miles away in Houston. Here they'll take control throughout the mission until the shuttle has landed.
I'll have you hold up just short of the seat so I can get up there with you.
By the launch director that Shuttle Test Director Mike Leinbach will advise the astronauts.
Discovery's hatch is closed and the astronauts sealed in 5 minutes ahead of schedule.
I remember thinking that I could feel all the people there. I knew that there were several hundred people there from my family and from my home state and people I'd gone to school with. You start feeling like, I guess we're really going to go. You know, it's just like a simulation up to that point. And anything could happen, and we've all seen so many launches get down to that point and have to delay because of weather or mechanical problems. And so you know it can always happen, and you might have to get out of the vehicle, take the suit off, and go through the whole thing all over again.
Consultation with the
Frank's premonition is right.
decided that we will scrub for today. At this time, we have no estimate.
The launch is scrubbed with just 20 minutes remaining on the clock.
At T-minus 20 minutes and holding.
The fault lies in a single transistor on this circuit board, which triggers explosive bolts holding the shuttle down. Discovery could have tried to take off while still firmly attached to the launch pad. Incredibly, the next launch is also aborted, with just 19 seconds to go. This time, a turbine at the base of one of the solid rocket boosters malfunctions. The shuttle could have flown off in the wrong direction. NASA engineers replace the faulty unit.
And this morning, our team coverage begins with Ross Cavett live at the Kennedy Space Center. Good morning, Ross.
Good morning, Sharon, and good morning, everyone. As former President Reagan used to say, well, here we go again. Number 3 for the Discovery today. 9:10 is your launch time, and right now everything is looking simply spectacular for a launch.
Have a cutoff. RSLS abort flag.
Ross Cavett was wrong. The launch is aborted with just 3 seconds to go. A fuel sensor in one of the main engines gives a spurious reading. But because the engines have been ignited, they can't be reused until they've been cleaned. All 3 are replaced.
This is
It's 2 months since the first launch attempt. Another abort would be unthinkable for NASA.
Houston, read you loud and clear, and if you configure for simul voice checks for the whole crew.
During a mission, only other astronauts will talk directly with the crew.
MS1 loud and clear. MS2 loud and clear. MS3 loud and clear. Rock and roll.
Pilot Bill Reedy switches on Discovery's own power units. He checks that the main engines will be able to steer the shuttle. In charge of the shuttle's journey up to space is the Ascent Flight Director in Mission Control. Any problems and the buck stops here.
Give me about another 30 seconds. We're getting our last bit of data in right now.
The liquid oxygen venting cap is removed from the top of the external tank.
Discovery, go. Payloads are go.
Discovery, roger. Thanks a lot. And the caution warning vapor is clear. No unexpected fault.
We've had the handoff, T-minus 30. Discovery's computers now controlling the countdown. Launch ignition system on. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Go for main engine start. Engines are up and burning. 2, 1.
It's like you've passed over into another dimension or another realm, because all of a sudden you're on a rocket and you're no longer doing anything you've ever experienced before. It moves about 6 feet at the top, and then the solid rockets ignite, and at that point the whole world changes.
Houston Discovery, roll program. Roger, roll, Discovery.
If you've seen a cartoon where the cartoon character goes into a building, punches a button on an elevator, and the elevator goes shooting out the roof into the sky, it was exactly like that. It's like somebody punched the button and the elevator just kept going.
Discovery, go and throttle up. Roger, go and throttle up.
The shuttle's accelerating extremely quickly. It's already 7 miles from the launch site, 61,000 feet high, and traveling at 1,700 miles per hour. The solid rocket boosters are jettisoned at 2 minutes and 10 seconds precisely. They'll parachute back into the Atlantic, where they'll be recovered and used on another launch. Fueled by the external tank, the orbiter's engines continue to burn brightly. It's 30 miles high now and traveling at 3,000 miles per hour. The crew is already above most of the atmosphere.
Discovery, press to MECO.
Press to MECO.
And single engine band. Discovery, single engine Banjul 104.
Single engine Banjul 104.
If 2 of the 3 engines fail, the shuttle will cross the Atlantic to land safely at Banjul in North Africa. If only 1 engine fails now, it'll still reach orbit.
Discovery, we have a MECO at 25.9.
Frank reports that MECO, main engine cutoff, has occurred. Discovery is in space. They've burnt all their fuel. The empty external tank is released.
We fly into orbit head down so that we have some kind of horizon to look at, and then you look up in the orbiter and there's the limb of the Earth, and just the thinnest veneer of an atmosphere. It's just one of the most breathtaking things you can imagine.
The external tank will burn up in the atmosphere. It's the only part of the shuttle that isn't reused. It's only 8.5 minutes since launch, and they've already reached the correct orbit.
Copy, Holmes 1 not required. Nice to be here, Terry. We're very happy.
A lot of smiles down here too, Frank.
They've arrived, traveling at 17,600 miles per hour. They open the payload bay doors.
You gradually realize that you're weightless and everything is floating. The fluid starts shifting into your head and you feel like your head's filling up with blood, and you just have to get used to it. And eventually the fluid will equilibrate and you'll feel very comfortable.
How's lunch?
A late lunch is served on the flight deck.
Lunch is shrimp, just like always. The guys keep stealing it.
You guys look like you're having much too much fun up there.
Almost 200 miles beneath them, the crew spot lightning flashes as dawn breaks over South America. Discovery spends most of its time with its payload bay and its windows facing down. It's circling the Earth once every 90 minutes. Computer graphics show the shuttle's position on monitor screens inside mission control.
FAO, Go.
A new shift takes over in mission control for the release of the first satellite.
Okay. PDRS? Go. Okay. So we'll stand by payloads for your final go.
Before the satellite's launched, small thrusters rotate the heavy orbiter to just the right position, nose upwards. The Advanced Communications Technology Satellite, ACTS for short, is tipped upwards in the payload bay.
Flight payloads, we're go for deploy. Capcom, we're go for deploy.
The orbiter and the satellite part company at 1 mile per hour as 6 spring-loaded bolts push ACTS out into space. But the release mechanism malfunctions, and huge amounts of debris, wires and strips of metal, are torn off. The pieces spin out of the payload bay in the wake of the satellite. This debris will join thousands of other pieces of space junk and could prove a hazard to future missions. We are already polluting the final frontier. ACTS has its own solid fuel rocket that will propel it to a much higher orbit, 22,300 miles up. The shuttle has helped it to do the most difficult part, getting above the atmosphere.
You want to do one of me coming up through here? Coach, doing a roll?
If you like, come up.
The crew take time off to relax. The novelty of weightlessness is too much to resist.
It really is zero gravity.
Goodbye, Jim.
Come on.
After a busy first day and a short sleep, it's time to make themselves at home. Although they've escaped from Earth to the immensity of space, the 5 of them are cooped up in 2 cabins no more spacious than a caravan. The small flight deck leads down through a hatchway into the larger mid-deck. The door slightly open on the left is the toilet. Straight ahead is Discovery's main hatch. The blue box on the right is the galley. The front of the mid-deck is covered with stowage lockers for equipment and the astronauts' belongings. Behind Dan are the sleeping bags which they float around in, weightless. There's one question that everyone always asks about astronauts living in space. How do they use the toilet? Understandably, they don't want to talk about it. But we know a man who will.
To use the system, crew member would get on it, and we have several devices for holding the crew member down. There's both some foot straps and the thigh bars that come over, and these thigh bars are spring-loaded and they hold you down to the seat. Each crew member has their own personal urinal funnel in some color-coded spaces. Place the urinal funnel in position, and I could go ahead and use the system at this point. This is a male urinal funnel, and there is a similar funnel specially designed for females. To use the commode, I take my commode control handle, bring it up and forward, and allows me to now have airflow at the commode seat. I can take my wipes and
Smell my urinal funnel. Go ahead and wipe up, and my wipes are placed in the coffee can. Once I've completed that, draw the coffee can bag shut, wad this bag up. We got a rubber band, holds it tight. Then I place this in the wet trash compartment.
Once they're up and about, the crew are ready to talk to Mission Control.
Hello, Mr. Bill.
Today's satellite release should capture the first ever shots of Discovery in space.
Howdy, it's gorgeous up here.
Dan attaches the long manipulator arm to the retrievable satellite. This Canadian arm is purpose-built for zero gravity. On Earth, it can't even lift its own weight. But in orbit, it will have no trouble lifting the satellite out of the payload bay. After it's been released, the retrievable satellite, called SPAS, will use a German telescope to study the birth of stars. Also on board are the cameras for looking back and filming Discovery. Dan carefully maneuvers the SPAS up and out of the bay.
Okay, we're there. Brakes are on.
Go for maneuver, Bill. Okay, Houston, we've got the SPAS in the release attitude on the arm, and we'd like to maneuver the orbiter.
Mission Control gives the crew the go to release the satellite.
Stand by one.
Dan pulls back the arm. Using its small thruster jets, the orbiter slowly backs away beneath the gaze of the satellite's rolling cameras. The ultimate pickup truck has delivered its load. The crew is crammed into the small cabin at Discovery's front end. Through the two small windows above the payload bay, they take it in turns to film the retreating satellite. Discovery and the SPAS satellite are both orbiting at almost 18,000 miles per hour. Yet they're parting company at less than 1 foot per second. The satellite, the orbiter, and the crew are traveling so fast that they're in perpetual free fall as they orbit around the Earth. But what is an orbit? Down here on Earth, even a high-velocity bullet will hit the ground at about the same time as the ejected cartridge. Gravity wins. But imagine that you could have a super high-velocity bullet, and that you could strip away the Earth's atmosphere to eliminate drag. Then the falling bullet would follow the curve of the Earth and never hit the surface. If you weren't careful, you'd shoot yourself in the back. Sealed against the vacuum of space, the crew are inside a huge bullet, the orbiter, traveling at 10 times rifle speed. They and Discovery are falling around the Earth at exactly the same rate. So the astronauts float around inside the cabin apparently weightless, even though they haven't escaped from the Earth's gravity.
You gotta be careful just to keep your eye kind of cupped because it might shoot out. Usually what the contact does is just stick to my eyelash. So I just pop them out. You see it kind of floats. I just grab it, let that around a little bit, and then I rinse it. Where am I looking? Now I rinse it. Spread a little bit on there. Just want to get all that cleaner off because if you put it back in your eyes with cleaner, it hurts.
They pass over the center of a tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, I've changed to the commander's window now, looking straight down at the storm. We went almost directly over the center of it, and you can see how the center is becoming pretty well defined.
Bill helps Carl and Jim check out a power ratchet for tomorrow's spacewalk.
Are we recording that? Yes, we got it.
The ratchet and all the systems controlled by the orbiter's 2,100 switches are powered by electricity from fuel cells that combine hydrogen and oxygen. The waste from the cells is pure water. What the astronauts don't drink is dumped overboard.
And very nice view of the water dump, Frank.
Tell him thanks. How does he know I'm doing it?
Frank, the cameraman is going to pan around here and go into the airlock as Mr. Bill pulls off the lower torso assembly of my suit.
In the wardrobe, Bill shows off the finer points of the costumes for the spacewalk. In NASA speak, an EVA for extravehicular activity.
Of course, the lower torso assembly is the EVA pants, and goes on the hard upper torso, which is the EVA coat, if you will. Chest and armor. And Mr. Bill's holding the comm cap.
Pass that to Jim.
Jim?
Floater?
That comm cap is what goes on under our helmets and allows us to hear discovery and mission control, and also to answer questions and make comments while we're performing the EVA.
Bless you.
We'll get these aft windows especially clean just so we can get some good pictures of these guys. Airlock egress, gentlemen, and have a good spacewalk. Okay, the outer hatch is open.
Well, it looks like a beautiful day for a spacewalk.
And it certainly is. They'll be out here for a long time, attached by safety wires, in the most hostile of environments. Temperatures range from minus 160 Celsius in the shade to higher than boiling point in the sun. The backpack can pump hot or cold fluids around their suits.
Rotate down a little bit. Need to come feet down about another couple feet.
Jim returns to the airlock for more tools and has a spot of bother with his backpack.
Yeah, Jim. The torque multiplier on the workstation prevents me from getting all the way down. There, how's that?
Okay, that's better.
Oh, yeah, that torque stuff on that mini workstation really gets in the way. Thanks, Bill. Roger.
Their suits are pressurized to only 1/3 atmospheric pressure. If it wasn't this low, it would be almost impossible for them to bend the elbow and knee joints.
Hello, Dr. Jim.
Howdy.
They've enough oxygen to be out here for 6 hours, time enough for their fingers to feel the chill. Jim warms his hands in the heat coming from the payload bay lamps.
For the heating of oil, my hands are already quite warm.
Elvis is alive and well in space over Cuba, or at least one of his impersonators, Carl, is. For him, there's work to be done. He has a go with the power ratchet that will be used on the Hubble Space Telescope repair mission. After 6 hours of exhausting work, it's time for an unequaled photo opportunity.
Over the many months for this GTO. Thanks, Tom.
Select the mid-deck and tell him to come to the window, Bill. Tell him to come to the window.
Thanks a lot. They really threw a good one in there at the end. Good work.
Come up to the window. Okay.
You already said
just
it,
get
didn't
one
Wonder what else you can do with it. Maybe squat thrust.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Good kick, Carl.
That's pretty good.
Racks of scientific experiments keep the crew busy inside the orbiter. Jim explains to Mission Control how his eyes perform in weightlessness.
Zero gravity acquiring and tracking of these objects. So when it goes opaque, I move my head and try to maintain fixation. I reacquire the target after the goggles go clear, and they can measure the refixation circuit.
Okay, Jim, thanks very much. That's very informative and interesting. Look forward to hearing some of the results.
It is Saturday down there now, and it's been up Saturday up here for quite a while, and for you too, I know. But Saturday, September the 18th, is my daughter Ashley's 12th birthday, and I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday and let her know that I'm thinking about her.
As the crew sleeps, Discovery flies over colossal thunderstorms in Central Africa. Above the Earth's thin atmosphere, the stars shine in the black sky. Today is Dan's big day.
Keep moving, Dan. Okay. Coming up behind you.
The SPAS satellite has been floating in space for 6 days. Its telescope has been busy stargazing. To rendezvous in space, you need to change your speed. But you can't just simply throttle up and steam ahead. Your speed is set by your height above the Earth.
Flight controller power is on. A, LVLH, primary jets.
If you want to catch up with a satellite, you must drop to a faster, lower orbit. Bill and Frank will fly Discovery underneath SPAS and get it close enough so that Dan can grab the satellite with the manipulator arm.
10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bill closes the gap. He slows down by firing the small thrusters. He fine-tunes the orbiter's position with several more bursts, until Discovery is bang in front of the satellite.
Reconfigure the down.
Okay, reconfiguring the A.
When SPAS is only 400 feet away, Frank takes over the controls and flies the orbiter by eye. He must bring Discovery within arm's length of the satellite.
And by Mark, 3,033.
Okay, I'll just do 3 then.
With his left hand, Frank fires the thrusters to match the speed of the approaching satellite. This and the landing are his 2 big moments. Eventually, the orbiter and SPAS are less than 40 feet apart, close enough for Dan to reach out with the arm. A black and white camera on the end of the arm helps him to home in on the target. After the capture, Dan swings SPAS around on the end of the arm so that its cameras can view Discovery from angles no other camera has ever reached.
Not many people get this view.
say we're at point?
We're at point 8.
Point 8.
Stand by to go to point 9.
Okay.
Bill keeps the orbiter level as the shifting weight of spars on the end of the arm tries to roll Discovery over.
Oh man. Oh, is that cool?
Slowly, Dan maneuvers spars around the orbiter, making sure that its cameras are pointing in the right direction. As Bill toggles the joystick that controls the 44 thrusters, SPAS takes a look in through the window.
It's about there, Jim.
Like that one, I guess the sweep right and over the nose. Seconds.
Tomorrow, they're heading home. To put Discovery in the right orbit, Bill fires the orbital maneuvering engines at the rear.
2, 1, mark. Whoa. I'll take the flight control power off at this time.
This burn has slightly changed Discovery's speed, so that it will arrive over Florida at their planned landing time tomorrow. Each day offers only a couple of chances when they can attempt re-entry to get back home.
I guess, do we want the logic and drivers off? Yep. Again?
Yeah, it's getting from the other end.
Want logic and drivers off? Yeah, except for this one. Okay, so these? Yep. This one? Yep. This one? Yep. These two? Yep.
Well, normally you power it off, you power them all off, and then you power that one back on, I believe.
Well, that's what we do post-sleep, but I don't know if you need to do that. I mean, pre-sleep.
If you do, it's part of the...
Is that what it says in the checklist? Whatever it says.
I think it
says as required, basically.
Down on the ground, there's more mundane work to be done. The shuttle's 3.5-mile-long landing strip is cleared of even the tiniest bits of debris.
Hey Houston, we've just moved the camera out to the commander's window on the port side, and we're just about to cross over Baja, California.
And we see it. Boy, I'm jealous. You've got a great view there.
It's the bagman!
But they're not quite home and dry yet. There's sudden rain in Florida, and the landing is waved off for 24 hours. It's a go to come home. In one sense, this shuttle has been on a mission to nowhere. Its amazing flying ability is hardly being used, and won't be, until NASA decides where it is going in space and why.
Space, I think, provides inspiration for improving the quality of life in a lot of other areas, and I would like to see people keep that in mind when they think about what we should do next. I'd like to see us move on to outposts on the moon, explore Mars. I think that's where we really need to head as the human way, and it's the right thing to do, because that really is the best way to expand our knowledge outward.
Frank, weather at KSC is 12,000 scattered, 30,000 scattered, and 7. Winds variable at 3. Hoot says it's a pretty night down there. You have a go for the deorbit burn.
Roger that, Chili. Thanks a lot. We'll be coming home real soon then.
To re-enter the atmosphere, Discovery fires its rear engines just west of Australia.
the way we come out of orbit is to slow down even more so that we're not only going to a lower orbit, but that orbit is low enough, this is where we are now, it becomes low enough so that we actually touch the top of the atmosphere and start slowing down even further. And as soon as we pick up that drag, we're not going to come back up.
When it hits the thin air, the shuttle will slow dramatically.
You guys on the ground. Going home?
See you, Jim.
See you, Jim. Last chance.
As it drops lower, Discovery crosses the Pacific with its nose pitched up at 40 degrees so that its base hits the atmosphere first. In less than half an hour, the speeding spaceplane will become a glider. As it crashes into the top of the atmosphere, friction with the air will heat Discovery's underside to 2,000 degrees Celsius. 20,000 of these ceramic tiles on the orbiter's belly protect it from incineration. They're made from sand and provide near-perfect insulation. Discovery begins making large S-shaped turns. The first turn loses 3,500 miles an hour off the speed. Friction starts to make itself felt. The crew are inside a raging fireball. Flames flicker past the window. The tiles on the orbiter are red hot. The incandescent shuttle glows like a giant shooting star in the night sky above Houston. The astronauts are able to look down on their hometown. Discovery is still 50 miles above the Earth. The glow turns white as the shuttle drops into the denser air. It's hurtling through the atmosphere at 12,500 miles per hour. Only 12 minutes to landing in Florida. As their vehicle slows, the astronauts begin to feel the effects of gravity.
Being heavy again was really, of course, it was a gradual process as we came back down. I noticed that things didn't float anymore. If I threw them up, they fell down.
I knew to anticipate feeling very heavy, although I didn't anticipate feeling that I weighed about 400 pounds.
As I went from the vertical towards lying down, about as I went partway through, all of a sudden it felt as if something had reached up and grabbed me and was just literally pulling me down.
Arriving over Florida, the heat radiation from Discovery is picked up by infrared cameras.
Discovery on energy approaching the hack. Surface winds are variable at 3, no change to weather. You'll be go for nominal drag chute deploy today.
Discovery, roger.
Discovery has slowed from 25 times the speed of sound to only 1,000 miles an hour. The white-hot nose and the leading edges of the wings glow brightest on the infrared images. The Kennedy Space Center is shaken by a double sonic boom. Discovery makes its final turn. It's truly a glider now, using only aerodynamic surfaces to fly.
It was only 1903 when somebody flew for 103 feet. You know, we're still at the flying 103 feet point in our progression into the cosmos. And we'll get there. We will. And it's going to be sooner than any of us think. I'll guarantee you that. And it's going to happen whether you know, we want it to or not. I think it's just part of the human evolution.
Station Discovery, we have the field.
It glides the last 8,000 feet in just 1 minute. It approaches the runway at 300 miles per hour. Discovery and its crew have completed 158 orbits of the Earth and traveled 4,106,000 miles.
Looking forward to telling you about this. Unbelievable.
Thank you very much.
It's always nice to get home and get a shower and, you know, and see all loved ones and everything. But I'll tell you what, the experience of flying in space is just so magnificent, so incredible that it's hard to be back.
Oh, the hat's... Yeah. It could be a bad hair day. And as I was going over, I peered over the top, and there below me was Namibia in Africa, just going by.
So I looked up and I saw about 300 degrees of an Earth horizon just looking from window 1 to window 6.
I'll see friends and talk to friends and just have a good time reliving the flight with everybody.
It's a great flight, worth waiting for. Every scrub, every delay, and the final analysis made it just that much better when we got there.
Hi, Stuart. How's it going, buddy?